What is going on, guys? Justin here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new EROY Arc Hero. Now, this thing is an absolute beast. I think probably one of the best in its class when it comes to electric bikes. So I'm going to go through some things that I love about it, some things that maybe I wish were improved, and overall my consensus on this bike versus other bikes in the market like the Super 73, Juiced, and obviously there's a lot of options out there these days. So I'm stoked to share this with you. Let's jump right in. All right, so first off, let's talk ordering experience. I think this is probably what sets EROY apart from the horror stories I've seen in other companies. It's like ordering a freaking custom Porsche. So the process starts going on the online configurator. I knew that I wanted a blacked out bike with some gold accents. So I went in the online configurator, I spec'd it out, I clicked submit, and that's when I heard from the EROY team in terms of completing the build. So the process was actually really easy and really straightforward. They reached out to me, we got on a call, we went over some options, we talked through exactly what I wanted in the bike, the battery, the controller, the power level, the brakes. Everything on these bikes are customizable, which I think really sets them apart from some of the competitors. Again, it's kind of like speccing out a supercar. You pick your seat material, you pick your seat length, you spec it out exactly how you want it. Overall, I had an amazing experience throughout the ordering process, and the customer service team after the fact has also been incredibly responsive when I have questions around things like brake pads or, upgrades. Hey, I've got this, for example, when I wanted a headlight, changed out, I changed out the headlight. I asked them some specs I needed. When I wanted to, look at upgrading the controller, adding certain mirrors, really responsive, really easy to work with. So shout out Sean and team at EROY for making this process easy. All right, so let's talk build quality. That is probably the first thing that grabbed my attention when I got an EROY Instagram ad, was how well built these things are. So not only are they made in the United States in North Carolina, but everything about them, the attention to detail, the quality, the parts they use, top notch. The milling, everything on it, top notch. I believe the battery is milled out of a single block of aluminum. The frame is all basically aircraft grade aluminum. Everything about it just feels like thick, but yet lightweight and still incredibly strong. So everything about the frame, how it's painted, I mean, there's no defects that I could find on this bike in terms of just the attention to details is up there. So I love everything about the build quality from that sense. Okay, so some of the specific parts that I want to call out on this, you can see the brand names screaming at you. They definitely did not spare any expenses when it came to picking out the best quality e-bike parts. So just taking a look at the tires, we've got Kenda tires on here. I chose the off-road tires, but you can also get slicks, I believe, if you're planning on solely using this in the city. I wanted to take this thing off-road to its full potential, so I chose the knobby tires. Magura brakes, so that's pretty much the gold standard when it comes to mountain bike and e-bike brakes. So they got the Magura brakes on here, very responsive, especially when you have speed and torque like this bike here. You want to be able to trust the brakes, and I definitely do based on my experience with it so far. We've got a Kelly controller in it, so delivering a lot of power, which we'll talk about in a second, but yet fits perfectly in the frame. You wouldn't even know it was there if you weren't looking for it. So everything about this has just been top notch. I mean, Maroka pedals, you look at this bike, you know that it's quality in every way. Now the seat is a Tapia seat, which if you've been in the e-bike world for a while, you know that almost everybody upgrades their e-bike seat to a Tapia seat. This one comes stock, which is just a game changer in my opinion. Very high quality leather, very comfortable. I mean, I've taken this thing on 2 to 3 hour rides, and I'm a pretty big guy, over 200 pounds, and it was incredibly comfortable for me. So it's also extended. I got the extended seat option so I can have a passenger. Fits them very comfortable as well. I trust my weight plus their weight on this thing, and the bike takes it like a champ. Okay, so now the part you've got to be really curious about is the power and the speed on this thing. So just right off the bat, a couple things that grabbed my attention. We've got a 60-volt battery, which delivers quite a lot of power. You know, right out of the gate, they ship these things to, you know, legally, class 2 e-bike mode, I think goes 24, 25, maybe 26 miles an hour. But they have the option for an off-road mode or private property mode. Again, I am about 200 pounds and I have switched this thing into private property mode and gotten it up to about 45. So again, for a bike this size with 200 plus pounds on it, that's nothing short of impressive. You're not gonna see a Super 73 or any bike that I'm aware of in this price range for, you know, what it is. I don't think there's any e-bike I've seen that can do that. So incredibly torquey. I can wheelie this thing, it'll pick me up. So a lot of torque going on here. The battery is very impressive. The range on it, while I've never drained the battery to zero or even gotten close, because again, the battery is just so freaking massive, I would imagine it probably goes about 100 miles if you're fairly conservative with it, keeping it, you know, in class 2 mode. Yes, there's pedals on it. I don't think I've ever pedaled it unless I was, you know, maybe going through a park or something and didn't want to draw too much attention to myself. But, you know, you've got the pedals. I personally don't use them very much, as you probably would not either, but it helps extend the range too. And if you ever, for whatever reason, ran out of battery, you have the option of pedaling back too. And finally, although it is not recommended or advised by EROY, there is always the option to tune these controllers, as with any e-bike, if you know what you're doing. Fairly straightforward with this one. You know, I have looked into tuning it, and there's a lot you can do to adjust the power bands, the power curve, with these controllers, the Kelly controller specifically. But, you know, with a chip or a little bit of research, you can definitely play with these. Again, probably not advised, may avoid your warranty, but there's a lot you can do with the parts that are thrown on this, because there is a lot of power in this bike. They can't sell it fully unlocked, obviously for legal reasons, but there's a lot of stuff you could personally do on your own to make this a very fun machine to ride. All right, so I kind of alluded to this before, but the ergonomics of this bike are actually incredibly comfortable. Again, I'm 6'5", maybe 6'6", and as you could tell, it actually fits me really, really comfortably. The handlebars positioned perfectly. The forks, they have extended forks on here, which make it very comfortable to ride. I can, you know, sit at a red light, legs fully extended, and, you know, be very, very comfortable. Now, one con, I guess, not even necessarily a build con, but something just for me personally being so tall, is that when I am up on the pedals like this, you can tell my knee rides a little high. I've gotten used to it. It doesn't bother me at all. It pretty much happens with any bike that I've ridden throughout my entire life, but may bother some people if they were actively pedaling this thing and had to come up incredibly high with the pedals. So not something that bothers me because I don't ever pedal this, but may bother potentially some people if you were incredibly tall and you wanted to pedal this thing on the regular. So not a big con for me, but otherwise ergonomically, again, I've ridden this for hours at a time and it's incredibly comfortable. We've also got dual adjustable shocks. So on the front and the rear, you know, it's as simple as twisting a lever here, twisting a lever here, and you can completely adjust. Obviously very springy shocks like I like to ride, a little softer suspension. Or if you know you're gonna be, you know, doing a little more pavement riding, you can dial those things up, keep it nice and tight. So ergonomics, beautiful. Definitely one of my favorite features about the bike is just how comfortable it is to ride. All right, so a lot of people ask me what I added to this bike versus what came stock from EROY. Couple things I added, couple things that came stock, but overall, I'm gonna walk you through it right now. So first off, one of my favorite things that EROY added as an optional add-on are these accessory light bars. So take a look at this. Press this button, your swing arm has a strip that lights up. Under the battery has that strip that lights up. You can do some pretty cool options. I believe they even have RGB type LED strips that you can add to this so they can change color. Probably the thing I get complimented the most on this bike is those lights. Especially riding at night, it's like something out of the future, looks like Tron, or I don't know, it has this just really badass look at night. I chose to add a headlight of my own to the bike. Reason I did that is because I wanted a very specific projector lens. So again, all the controls from the handlebar here, turn that on both high beam and low beam. I do a lot of off-road night riding, so I wanted something that really projected really far. So this was a headlight that I found on Amazon. I can link it in the description. 41 thinking about adding this to their bike, whether it be EROY or another brand. Another favorite feature of mine, the back of this thing, the tail lights are probably unlike any tail light I've seen on an e-bike to date. Check these out. So you've got this badass double red glow. I mean, I've never seen e-bike lights that do that before. So that is by far one of my favorite features. You can see that beam pattern on the wall actually there too, from the high beam and the low beam. So again, there's a lot of cool things. Those are all things that just come stock from EROY if you choose to add them, or sometimes stock depending on the model you get. Now in terms of other upgrades to this bike, a few things that I wanted. I do a lot of traffic riding during the day around the city here. So as you can see, I added a little horn on the front here, controlled from the handlebar. I can press this if a car is about to cut me off or something. It actually is really loud. I think it might be louder than like a motorcycle horn. In addition, some other things, I love music. I love music when I'm riding. I don't want to wear headphones or AirPods when I'm riding, so I added this little JBL speaker mount, perfect for this JBL speaker, or really any speaker that you're gonna probably have. Again, this was like maybe 10 bucks on Amazon, so I can drop a link to that below. A couple other things, again, when you have an investment like this with an e-bike like this, you wanna protect it. Living in the city, there are bike thefts that happen all the time. So I bought myself a hip lock D1000. For those of you who've seen the videos of this lock, it is literally bulletproof, bomb-proof, cutter-proof. You cannot break through this thing. It is steel with cement and ceramic, and I don't know what else they put in it, but I've seen some videos where they used 8 angle grinder blades and still had not cut through this lock. So one of my favorite features is this lock actually works really well on this bike. If we spin it around, I actually made it where I can pop out this logo plate right here, and the lock simply comes right through this section, locks to a bike mount, bike rack, and this bike is not going anywhere. They literally have to cut the frame out of this bike to take it. So highly recommend the Hip Lock D1000 for any bike you have, whether it's an EROY, whatever. Much, much better as well than carrying around big heavy chains like the Kryptonite. Nobody wants to do that. This literally fits perfectly on this bike. It looks like it's meant to be there. And then again, it's perfect for securing it anywhere. And finally, the last thing that I added was just this underslung mirror here. Again, doing a lot of traffic riding. It's helpful to see behind you. There's other ways you can do this. There's mirrors that go on the end of your handlebars. EROY has some really sick mirrors that come up above the top of the handlebars. I just happen to have this mirror already from my last e-bike and it works perfect, so I just plopped it on here. Again, I'll link that down in the description, as with everything else. And I guess finally, a little bonus is just a cell phone holder. It's pretty standard. It's a bike cell phone mount. I trust it, to hold my phone, to give me Google Maps when I'm navigating around the city. So, outside of that, in terms of upgrades, that's pretty much everything I've done to it, and I have nothing else I can think of that I want to add. This bike is truly spec'd out, keeping the minimal appearance, but giving me all the features that I want. Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up, I know a lot of you are probably, if you're in the market for an e-bike, you're looking at Super 73, you're looking at Juiced, you're looking at some of the brands that maybe sell a little bit more volume than EROY. I'm gonna tell you why I went with EROY versus Super 73, which was the second place in my opinion in terms of my search when I was doing e-bikes. So when I went after, every brand on the market, I wanted a couple things. I wanted a bike that looked really clean, looked higher end, but also had a lot of power. When I actually bought this bike, it was before Super 73 had released some of their upgrades in terms of power and speed, but this thing still blows them out of the water. So a couple things to note, just direct comparison, apples to apples. This thing again has a 60-volt battery with 35 amp hours. Super 73 has a 48-volt battery with 20 amp hours. So we're getting more voltage, more amp hours. I mean, this battery, as you can tell, is freaking huge. So it lasts, it has the power, it gives the controller and the motor everything that it needs for that speed and that torque that we were talking about. So just from a power comparison alone, that was worth the upgrade for me. I think at the time of purchasing, this bike was about $1,000 more expensive than the Super 73 that I was looking at. But again, there's a lot of reasons I was able to justify that investment. The customer service, the personalization, the fact it's all built here in the United States, and I knew if I ever had a problem with it, I could just take the bike to them and they would fix it. I could call them up on the phone. Like trying to call Super 73 and getting someone on the phone to help you, you're gonna put in a support ticket, it's gonna take forever. So with something like this, with something higher end, a little more expensive, I wanted that personalized support. I also wanted the customization. You know, I couldn't have gone to Super 73 at the time and asked them for exactly what I wanted, the color of the bolt and the screws and the vinyl printed on it. Everything was spec'd out. So for that reason, for the power reason, for the customer service reason, you know, those are just a few of the things that made me choose EROY. Again, also being really tall. They mentioned they were able to spec this bike to me being tall. And again, I've ridden plenty of Super 73s and they are amazing bikes, amazing machines, but something about this just fit me way better and just felt better. And you know, I'm a sucker for a little bit of power and acceleration, which is the reason I ended up going with the EROY. Okay, so to wrap things up, in conclusion, I love this bike. This bike is built to last. This bike is built to exactly what I want it to be. Everything about it, the riding experience, top notch. If you have a chance to go to any e-bike event and test one of these things out, highly recommend it. You will feel that for, you know, a relatively lightweight, though very robust bike, the stabilization when you're riding at speed, especially in an off-road mode at, you know, 40 plus miles per hour, just feels incredibly stable. It feels solid, especially with 200 pounds plus on it at the time. We'll see if I gain or lose a little bit of weight, how that changes, but overall it's kept, you know, incredibly stable during every single ride. The platform just feels optimized. It feels balanced, it feels customized, you know, everything I could want in a bike. So the investment for me was well worth it. I use this as my daily commuter. Even in winter, I bundle up, take it to the gym, take it to my office. For me, this investment, well worth it. If you get a chance to test drive them, or if you're ever finding yourself down in North Carolina to visit their headquarters, definitely reach out to the team. They're super responsive. They were very communicative when I, you know, had expressed an interest in buying one of these bikes. So overall, highly recommend. I cannot wait to see what else they come up with. I know they're working on some pretty cool projects over at EROY that maybe will be dropping here soon. So stay tuned, definitely check them out. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Feel free to hit me on Instagram at JustinReels. That is where I respond the most. Or just drop a comment down below. What did you like about this bike? What do you wish was changed? What questions do you have? And I will answer them all. So until next time, guys, I will see you soon. Take care.